What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Burke, aka Dan's Great, and I did say I would be returning for the Coliseum DLC in Final Fantasy XIII-2, and even though we're in the Valhalla DLC right now, it doesn't mean we're not going to be playing the Coliseum. So what I'm going to try and do first of all, before going to the Coliseum, is getting Valkyrie Lightning. And apparently the way you do this is by beating Caius with 5 stars and also beating Bahamut with 5 stars. So you've got to do like 2 back-to-back 5-star battles in order to make it. So with regards to this, is like a sweet spot for Lightning's level in terms of, like, if she's at this level, she'll be able to kill him fast enough and reliably enough. And if she's too high level, then the target time will be too quick for me to easily get a 5-star. So as soon as you get Blade Storm, you can really work the stagger gauge really easily, and she'll have enough HP, enough strength to take him out, hopefully in 1 stagger, if I get this right. So if I can time this correctly, I should hopefully be able to take him out in 1 stagger. So let's give it a go. She's just so supremely powerful here. It's ridiculous. It'd be nice if this version could join us in the DLC with like 50,000 HP and like 1,500 each for strength or whatever. So as long as you can get him in 1 stagger, and obviously it doesn't change to the medic one where he kind of has the auto regen effect and all that stuff, then it should be fine. Because Blade Storm is just too good, man. It really works the stagger gauge well. So I don't think I'm going to get it in 1 stagger, but it should be quick enough in general that I should be... It's very close. Oh, I got it. Nice. Okay. Right, straight on to Bahamut. Bahamut will be a little bit more difficult to get the 5-star in, because I've got to go quick. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've got to have a very early intermission here and explain some things to you guys. As you just saw there, the game kind of got stuck and it froze and it crashed. So what's going on here is I've been back in the UK. I'm going to be back here for like another few weeks after this. And when I do return to Turkey, I want to continue like all of my focus on Final Fantasy VII and the LP for that. But I thought while I've got time here, I've got my laptop that can run the game pretty like just fine with normal like 1080p settings. I was like, let me just work the Coliseum on my laptop and have all of that stuff recorded so that I just have it in my back pocket and I don't have to wait until like after I finished Final Fantasy VII or anything like that. So I started doing it, but I've been having a bunch of technical issues with this game. So for some reason, the game that was working fairly, like in a fairly stable state on my desktop PC in Istanbul is having a horrible time running on my laptop. And it just crashes like on loading screens, it crashes in transitions between battles. It's been like really horrible to try and get it working in any kind of way. I think because of like the hardware that I have, like the hardware software combination and how bad the port is, when all 3 of these things come together, I'm having a really difficult time trying to record this and play this thing reliably. So what you're going to see here likely in like the upcoming, like all of the Coliseum episodes, is going to be, there's going to be a slight degradation in quality. There might be slightly worse frame rates in some areas because basically I've kind of figured out a recording solution that works. I've started to use Windows' own game recording like DVR software that they've recently put in, because when I try to use NVIDIA Shadowplay it doesn't work. When I try to use OBS, the frame rates are terrible for some reason. So I've just been having a really horrible time trying to record this thing. But I think I figured out a solution. So from here on out, for the Bahamut battle that you're about to see, and for all of the Coliseum stuff, know that it was recorded on my laptop, and it's going to have like slightly inferior visual settings compared to what was on the desktop. And I did have a bunch of technical issues as well. Some battles might have to be repeated because for some reason one of the worst times it happens is when I complete a battle, I want to transition like back to the Historia Crux so I can save it and make a new slot, and that's when it likes to crash. So I've been doing a bit of playing around with it. I think I found something that's stable, but in general it's been a really difficult time trying to get this port to work and get recorded by the laptop that I've been playing on since I've been back in the UK. We're going to continue with Bahamut now, but just know that I've been having some serious technical issues trying to get this flipping game and this Coliseum DLC to work properly on this laptop. Okay, this is like attempt number 4 or 5 on Bahamut because I've been having some really annoying recording issues where it's just not been working properly on my laptop and I've been having crashes and all this kind of shit. So I'll probably do like a little thing to explain like what was going on so I don't waste too much time talking about it now. Here I'm going to go for... there was a few times where I did it and I wasn't quick enough, so I'm going to try and be as aggressive as possible here with my Ravager-esque paradigm. Other than this, there's the whole there's a synergist paradigm thing. So as you can see, I've got the protect, shell, vigilance, and veil thing going on here. In my initial attempts, I went for the more attacking one. I used aura, but one thing I noticed was that, especially in this form, when you're trying to build the gauge, because Bahamut attacks fairly frequently and his attack is like that swipey one, there's a lot of occasions where lightning's in midair and she's attacking and she gets smacked by this thing, and she gets basically like kind of knocked back to the ground and you lose your entire like ATB bars, and she stays on the ground for a few seconds. All in all, you lose like 8 to 10 seconds and you lose a bunch of attacks. So especially when I'm trying to build up the gauge, I tend to go for vigilance so that I don't get knocked down when I'm in midair and I don't get interrupted. So now, very soon, I'm going to switch to aura, so I do have haste and bravery, and I can make the most of the stagger. Right, here we go. I slightly mistimed this, but it should be okay, I think. I needed to get the aura in before the stagger happened, but close enough. And I'm going to try and protect. Yeah, that Mega Flare hurts a lot, man. So when it metamorphosizes, then you have a chance to do some real damage because it, as you can see, it kind of gets stuck and you get like a 10-15 second window where you can just let loose and not have to worry about anything, like paradigm switch or anything like that. Apologies if I sound a little bit nasal for this one. My allergies have been playing up a little bit again, but hopefully for the next session we should be fine. But I had a big window to record, so I thought I've got to make use of this. Most of it's been thrown away because I've had to restart so many times, but I think I have it figured out now. Okay, so that's over half damage. Ah, there you go. So that's a perfect example of lightning getting smacked in the air and losing her momentum. So that's why I go for vigilance, because you can't have both at the same time. You can't have haste, bravery, and vigilance all together. So you've got to make a choice. So now just got to do it all again, and now that my HP is slowly starting to come down, when he switches to Mega Flare stage, I've got to watch out and make sure... it's wasted me a lot of time. But I need that vigilance, otherwise in the long run I waste even more time. Okay. As long as the chain is still alive. Blade Storm is just so cool, man. I love the attack. It's really cool. I don't know if Valkyrie Lightning is going to be able to use Blade Storm. Because that's a Ravager move, and I think she's a commando, so we don't get to use that. But this is going to be tight. The few times where I did fail this, I failed because once he metamorphosized, I still continued to attack, and the attacks do too much damage, even with Protect and Shell. It's too much, and I died before I could do enough damage to kill it. So this time around, I've got to make sure I use that immortality thing, because I don't want to use any potions or elixirs or any shit like that. That will probably stop me from being able to get a 5-star. That's it. You just wait there, dude. You just sit there. Yeah, so another slap attack that normally would have stopped me if I didn't have vigilance. So yeah, in general, when it comes to the Coliseum DLC, I'll probably like to talk about this stuff again. But when it comes to the Coliseum DLC, a lot of it is going to be just kind of me improvising, trying to make the best I can with what I have, and not really seek out like guides on how to beat stuff, because as you guys know, that's not how I do things. But of course, I've got a lot of comments as I've been playing, and people have been saying Valkyrie Lightning is awesome, you should definitely get her. She's really cool to have in the Coliseum, so I thought, well, that seems like a very wise thing to do. And I love me some Lightning, so who wouldn't want her on the team when you're trying to fight some of the most difficult bosses of recent Final Fantasies, because some of those bosses are genuinely like very, very tough. Like if you're making like an all-time toughest boss battles list, based on what I know, like some of these Coliseum DLC bosses could be in there. Like if you're doing like a top 10, 15 Final Fantasy bosses of all time, they might be in there. So should be a lot of fun. Now, did I get her? Let's see. Yes, sirree. Okay, the fun begins. Okay, my friends, now that we've got Valkyrie Lightning, it's time for me to talk to you about how I plan to proceed with this Coliseum DLC in terms of preparation. So, we've got Valkyrie Lightning on the team, and we are going to be needing to power up a lot of monsters because we're facing enemies that are going to be like in the 10 million HP range. They're going to be extremely strong, and under normal circumstances I have to do a shit ton of grinding in order to get all of the gil that I need and to power up the Crystarium for all of the monsters I'm going to be recruiting and all that kind of shit. So what you're going to see here is that I have 99 of these items, so stuff like the Power Crystal, Vitality Crystal, Mana Crystal, and I have 1,000,000 gil. So what I did was I used a trainer, basically a cheat, in order to get myself the gil that I needed to save me farming time, because when you're trying to LP and you've got a busy schedule, I don't really have time to take like 10, 15, whatever, how many hours out in order to do something that is grindy and that's not actually going to make it into the playlist. So with the items I got by doing this, I'm going to be able to upgrade everything that I have, because as you can see, there's a lot of work to do. So the green chocobo was ready, but Bunker Beast is at level 36, so he needs a lot of items to get up to the highest level. And the trouble is, if it was purely gil farming, that's kind of a little bit better, but because you can only get the potent crystal in the shop, that means you have to physically go out and fight enemies that drop the other crystals that you need, and that is something that takes a lot of time, because some of these enemies appear more rarely, and that means you have to have a fragment skill. So I've got to go and get all the fragments needed to get that particular fragment skill. Then that enemy appears more frequently, then I have to farm that enemy to get the crystals that I need, etc, etc, etc. So in order to bypass that whole situation, I just got all of the items that I needed to save me all that time, and I've got some gil in case I need to like buy more crystals, buy some equipment that I didn't have previously, and all that kind of stuff. So what you're going to see here is kind of like a middle ground compromise. So on the one hand, I've got stuff like these power crystals that you're about to see now, which will really help with lightning strength, because what's the point of getting Valkyrie Lightning if you're not going to give her the maximum strength that you can? So that's why, like for example, look at how many of these I would have had to farm in order to get Lightning to her maximum level. So it's about 50 of them that I would have needed, and I had like 1 or like 0 at the start of the session, and that's just for Lightning. So you guys get the idea. But what I'm also going to do is not get any other monsters at this point. So I already had Bunker Beast at the end of the game, and I already had the green chocobo, and I'm not going to do anything else. And what I'm also not going to do is get like, I mean, I don't think I can use the trainer that I have to get other monsters anyway at this point. But in terms of like monsters and infusion, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to make do with what I have at this point. So from what I've seen on the internet, when it comes to the Coliseum DLC, there are very like optimized builds for how to crush this DLC and beat enemies very, very easily. And it involves like very specific combinations of passive abilities that you can combine together to get some like really devastating effects. There's certain like crystal combinations, like use this many of that crystal, this many of this crystal. There's all these funky infusions that you do to give all these enemies like to give all these allies really interesting abilities, etc, etc. So if I went ahead and did that as well, then basically this party is going to be so strong and so optimized that, as I understand it, you're basically going to be able to kill everything very, very quickly and very, very easily. And well, again, that's going to be something that's going to not be very enjoyable for me. So all I did was save myself the grind time for Gil and Crystals, and kept the team that I had with Valkyrie Lightning, Bunker Beast and Green Chocobo, and see how far we can get with these guys. I assume that they're going to be enough for me to complete the DLC. So what you're going to see is Chi-Chu being sacrificed in order to power up Valkyrie Lightning to a higher level. Even though their strength is not that different, I think from what I've seen you can get Lightning up to about 1400 strength, but for that you need a plus 35 strength, and that's from a source that I don't currently have. So that's why I'm having to sacrifice Chi-Chu for now. But the better thing will be that I think Lightning's Legion of One is a very powerful feral link skill thing that I can use, and she's going to have like over 3000 more HP than Chi-Chu as well. So I think Chi-Chu is going to be a better option for me to infuse. So even though Chi-Chu did a lot of great work for me, it's time for Lightning to get some of those goodies, and I'm going to see if there's anything else that I can get from my current list of monsters that will help her out in some way as well. So the Lightning that you're seeing here has uncapped damage, immovable max, and enhanced commando, and I think no matter what you do, those are in red, they're completely locked, so you won't be able to change those abilities. But if you look up a fully optimized Lightning, a lot of the passive abilities that you see are not going to be the same ones that I have. They're going to be better ones, so they're going to be like, I don't know, strength plus 35, maybe HP plus 25, and there's a few like other really interesting, cool abilities that will make Valkyrie Lightning a total boss. So the one that I have is maybe like 60% as good as a fully optimized Lightning. So that's where like this whole balancing act comes to me, where I've saved myself time, but in terms of like technically and preparation wise how difficult the fights are going to be, I've not really made it that much easier for myself in any way. So another example of that is the equipment. Noel and Sarah do not have either of the two like best weapons. They still have the same weapons that they had near the end of the game when we fought like Yomi and all of those guys. So I don't have like the ultimate best weapons for them either. In terms of equipment, again, whatever I got during the main story in the DLC is all that I have. I haven't been like getting trapezohedron so that I can upgrade equipment and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of how difficult the battles will be, they're still going to be very difficult because there's a lot of things I could have done to make my life a lot easier that I haven't done at this point. So it's been about time more than anything else, and for some of you I'm sure that's still not going to be a good enough excuse, like, well, you know, grinding and getting all those crystals, that's part of the challenge, that's part of the game. But you know, when you have a busy life and you're trying to keep creating this content for people, taking all that time out to grind something that people are not going to see is not optimal use of your time. So sometimes you just have to make compromises on how you do things. But I have no doubt that the battles are going to be very difficult and very entertaining, because what I've done here has not necessarily made the battles easier. It's just made me ready to face them with a reasonable enough chance of winning much more quickly than I would have if I didn't use them. So this is the situation that we currently have. We have Bunker Beasts with a shit ton of HP, which should hopefully be very helpful. We've got Valkyrie Lightning with 9400 HP and about 1300 strength. So this is the team that I'm going to kind of launch myself into the DLC with and see how far I get. And I think the first few should be fairly easy. And having read some comments, I think one mistake I made was assuming that it wasn't in difficulty order. So like Omega in Final Fantasy games is usually like a very difficult boss, and I thought Omega is surely one of the hardest ones of the Coliseum DLC, but apparently it's one of the easiest. So I'm going to go in the order that they're presented in the list, so Omega will be the first one that I fight, and we'll work our way down, because as far as I understand, in general it gets more difficult the further down you get, except maybe for Gilgamesh and Snow kind of being swapped. I think Gilgamesh is definitely the hardest of the normal enemies that we can face here. So let's give it a go, let's see how we fare, and hopefully I can knock out a few of these in the same session before we get to the more difficult ones. Especially Poo Poo, I need revenge on that bastard. So what I'll do is I'll save here, in case it crashes like between a battle. I think I've definitely got to try and save here I've had to do this process 2 or 3 times already. That's why I did like post commentary over it, because I got tired of talking about the same stuff over and over again. I think we're ready to take on Omega and truly start the DLC. Let's do it. Okay, I have done some final checks and I am ready to go with the Coliseum after a failed attempt where I beat Omega, I beat Geel, and I beat Lightning and Alodar. I had a recording fail and I couldn't get my file back, it was corrupted, so I have to do it again. So let me just make use of these extra few Crystarium points that I've got. As you can see, I'm about 50 levels short of getting level 99 for Null and Sarah, and if I need like those extra few levels, then I guess I can always get them. They're not that difficult. But yes, this is the situation. I've got Bunker Beast, he's got Steel Guard, Mediguard, 13,000 HP. Lightning is looking strong. Not as strong as she could be, but I think strong enough to get me through most of what I need for the Coliseum. I'm hoping that, like, because her passive abilities aren't perfect, I won't be in a situation where I need to kind of discard her and start from the beginning and genuinely optimize her to perfection, but we'll have to see how it goes. And of course, Green Chocobo is in here as well. Resist physical plus 36 should hopefully make up for the lower HP, I'm hoping. But yep, so as you guys know, I powered them up using these crystals that you see here, and I used a trainer to be able to get those quickly so that I could just start the battles and I didn't have to spend like all these hours farming for them, because you can only get the potent crystal from the shop and they're quite expensive to get anyway. So that's pretty much the story. In terms of equipment, we have the same equipment that I had at the start of this whole thing, so nothing special in terms of the weapons. I don't have like the 2 or 3 best weapons in the game. If I need those, then I need to get special items like trapezohedrons or dark matters or something like that. We'll look into that. I'm going to try and dive in and take out as much of the Coliseum as I can with the setup that you have just seen here. So let's begin with Omega.
You have come. From the sky it comes, heartless and bloodless. Omega, bringer of the end. Unleash your might in the name of destruction, and may all men know despair.
So this Omega looks very much like the one in Final Fantasy XII, actually, because I'm not sure if like that's the default Omega look, like to look like this, but it definitely looks like the one in Final Fantasy XII. So I noticed that it's quite weak relative to the party that I've got here, so as long as I've got some vigilance, I'm not interrupted that much, I can kind of launch straight into it and try and do the damage. 881,000 HP, and it's immune to deprotect and deshell. I think not imperil. No, imperil as well. There's something there that's not weak to, but it might be slow actually. But I don't have that ability right now, so I don't think I need it. The way the battle works is that I think because the chain resistance is so high that you're not really going to be able to stagger it very quickly. And by the time you stagger it, it's already going to do something which is going to cause you to basically exploit it in a big way. So for now, all I'll do is I'll try and build the chain gauge as best I can and not die, of course. Depending on who it picks on, obviously you can be in trouble, but in general it's not too bad. Crippling Surge, as you can see, it causes daze. Daze is one of the most annoying status effects, man, because it's such a flowing, like, quick battle system for these more difficult boss battles. When you get dazed, it gets really annoying when you have to stop. You have to either wait it out or select an item and recover. So charging power 50%. I think it gets up to 120%, and then it unleashes like its big move, and it comes pretty quickly. So I'm sure this Tortoise Paradigm is going to help a lot in this Coliseum. Here it comes. Wave Cannon. And well, in Tortoise Paradigm is really not going to hurt you at all if you're at endgame stats. And then once it does that move, it overheats and it basically automatically staggers itself and leaves itself very much vulnerable to attack. So I'll try and stabilize the gauge a bit using these guys and then get it back up again. The biggest problem I have with the Coliseum is that I don't have a third really strong Ravager, and I don't know like to what extent I'm going to be able to complete it without one, because having only 2 instead of 3 is going to limit my ability to get the chain gauge up. So I try to do my best without one, but if I find I really need it, then I will have to... Shit. My time is too late. Yeah, if I can't get on without my third Ravager and I really need one, then I'll look into which monster is a good third Ravager and try and recruit one. But for now, I'll stick with Relentless Assault instead. So 242, vulnerable to lightning damage, and now that it's recovered, as you can see, weakness in physical and in magic. So once it does that overheat thing and it comes back, then you can pretty much just attack it and take it out. You don't need to be very defensive at all. And even though the chain gauge isn't very high, you'll still be doing okay damage. So I'll just heal as needed, but most likely we'll be able to take it out pretty quick. So as Omega was in Final Fantasy XII, this one's also very straightforward, not a huge variety of things to do. And there you go, 5 stars. First Coliseum battle out of the way.
Your